Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And some pretty exciting things are happening today. I mean, we got a new Sonic Frontiers trailer, we got a new Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trailer, plus a release date. Then we also got a tease for a big upcoming PlayStation game that might be getting an announcement rather soon. Amber Heard's lies were exposed today. That's a nice little bonus as well. And also a big Xbox game that fans have been wanting for such a long time might actually be on its way. So yes, we do have a lot to cover today. Per usual though, if you do find yourself enjoying the video, go and hit that like button below, and while you're at it, go and hit that bell notification and subscribe button as well. But other than that, again, we got a lot to cover, so let's just go and jump right into things. And today we're going to start off with some PlayStation news, as they just announced the June PlayStation Plus lineup. And this is actually a pretty good way to start off the month, because as you can see here, this includes the much beloved and one of the best single-player games ever made, being God of War. Subscribers will also get Naruto Shinobi Striker and then Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, which is not all that old of a game. This is a game that released just last year, and there was originally some hype leading up to its release. I don't know if it necessarily held up compared to something like, let's say, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as an example, but really, what can? Still though, you might have some fun fighting with some popular characters here, such as SpongeBob and Patrick. You'll also get a fight as several other beloved characters that you might recognize from your childhood. I mean, you have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here, you also have the Rugrats, and you even have characters like Danny Phantom. So there's a lot of those beloved characters that you might recognize from those Nickelodeon shows that you used to watch as a kid. And if for whatever reason, if you own a PlayStation and somehow haven't already played God of War, do yourself a favor and download this game. I mean, it really is one of the best single-player games ever made. That's not an exaggeration, it just simply is. So if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber, there's really just no excuse by this point not to play God of War. Plus, I mean, this is perfect timing here. While we don't have an exact release date for Ragnarok just yet, all expectations are that it will release in 2022, and we might get a confirmed release date later this month. Hopefully. But yeah, play God of War 2018. Now, speaking of possible PlayStation announcements for the month of June, one leak that has been going around is a Death Stranding sequel. This is actually a really interesting leak that came directly from Norman Reedus, which is the protagonist in Death Stranding, and he basically let us slip out that they are indeed working on a sequel. We did just talk about this a few weeks ago, and really since then, Hideo Kojima, he's kind of leaned into this leak. He originally posted a cryptic tweet online of him standing over Norman Reedus with a baseball bat, telling him to go back to his private room. And it was kind of like him saying, yeah, that information was supposed to be secret, but now he's at it once again. He did just post a tweet simply saying June, and interestingly enough, this included a picture of a June calendar with a Death Stranding figure next to the portrait. Now, this is very interesting with that leak already going around, and one thing that we do know about Hideo Kojima is that he's friends with Jeff Keighley, the host of the Summer Game Fest. And that right there is the thing. We have seen Kojima make several announcements at Jeff Keighley hosted events. And with this tweet here, it doesn't really seem like it would be out of the realms of possibility that yes, he could end up making an official Death Stranding 2 announcement this month at the Summer Game Fest. I mean, by this point, the sequel is to be expected. And whether or not they have a full-blown trailer ready or not, at the very least, they could simply just show a small teaser or something like that, just simply confirming that it is indeed in development. I think that would be enough to get fans excited, but to be fair, he could just be trolling here. I mean, this is Kojima after all, so you can't really rule that out either. But let me know what you all think about this in the comments below. Do you think a Death Stranding sequel will be announced this June or not? Let's go and switch gears here though, because we did get a couple of gameplay reveals today, one for Sonic Frontiers and then the other one for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that the internet is still intact today after getting reveals for both of these games, but I mean, nonetheless, let's go ahead and talk about what we just witnessed and more or less learn from the new trailers. Now, we'll first briefly talk about Sonic Frontiers, which is a very different take on a 3D Sonic game than what we have seen prior to this. This is a fully open world Sonic game, and there has been questions on how exactly this will work. And, well, now you can actually see it for yourself. We did get a 7-minute clip today where Sonic runs around in its realistic-looking world, and I will say that from a graphical standpoint, I do think that it looks pretty. I'll even say that the gameplay itself looks interesting. But, and there is a big but here, a lot of what we saw today almost seems out of place. Now, maybe that's just me. I'm not going to rule that out, but it just felt like a bunch of Sonic assets was kind of thrown around in an open world setting without any thought to its actual cohesion. There's just random rails in the sky. You can see misplaced springs and ramps all over the ground, and it just, to me, again, it just felt out of place. Like, why is this stuff here? I think for me, it just seemed like it was a bit strange in terms of how they arranged all the objects, but, and I guess that's just my word of the day here, but it does look fun, or at least in my opinion. I can't say that I'm necessarily sold on what we saw today, but I still think that it looks like it could be fun. I'll just kind of leave by saying I need to see more. However, I would love to hear y'all's opinions on Sonic Frontier. Were you happy with what we saw today? I genuinely hope that you are, but let me know in the comments below. Now, as for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, though, I am absolutely sold on this game. They did reveal a new trailer and information today, and I really like what I'm seeing and hearing about this game so far. Now, there's a lot to go over here, so hopefully I don't miss anything, but the most important part about this entire announcement was the release date. We now have a concrete release date set in stone, and that is November 18th. Now, if you really start to think about it, that means in a 12-month period, they have released Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, then earlier this year, we got Legends Arceus as well, and now on top of that, you get Scarlet and Violet on November 18th of 2022. You also have to keep in mind that new Pokemon Snap, that released just last year, so it really feels like this is an amazing stretch for Pokemon fans worldwide, but obviously, coming off the Legends Arceus release, which has been a bit of a fan favorite, there has been some questions on how exactly they're going to handle Scarlet and Violet, which is the next big mainline release. And really, from what I gathered here today, it does seem like it takes a little bit from both of those formulas. I still need to kind of see more on the battle mechanics because they didn't really show too much on that, but you can see in the trailer that you can sneak up on different wild Pokemon and enter battles that way. I do think that that's interesting because you'll likely have to be a little bit more tactical in how you catch specific Pokemon. Some might be a little bit more timid and just kind of run away, so that sneaking mechanic might be rather important. Pokemon also seem to be correctly sized in this game, which is nice to see. However, there were two specific features that they announced today that really stood out. They did reveal that Scarlet and Violet is a completely open world game this time, and how you explore is not dictated by its story. So, if you want to travel directly to its snowy mountains as soon as the game starts, well, technically, you can do that. It's a very Breath of the Wild approach, if you will, and I think that that will be interesting in the aspect that it's truly going to be your own Pokemon adventure. I mean, this is something that fans have dreamed about for years and years, and well, now you have it here with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I think that its world is going to be a lot of fun to explore. It does seem like that there's a lot of different biomes, whether that be with your caves, the snowy mountains, and so on and so forth. And better yet, this actually includes 4-player co-op as well. They did reveal that in several locations you will have playable 4-player co-op. Keep in mind that this is not necessarily for the entire game per se, but still, this was rather unexpected and also a very welcome announcement. As for some of the other things that they revealed here, though, for the first time ever, there's actually 2 different professors, and this will differ depending on which game you get. I believe one represents the future while the other one represents the past, which I think that's actually a pretty cool setting for this game. They also showed what I believe is your rival. Then they revealed various new Pokemon, including Lechonk, which is quickly becoming a fan favorite Pokemon for its lovable piggy nature. I do think that the designs of the new Pokemon, they do seem pretty solid so far. And then last but not least, we now know the main legendary Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. And I think that this actually has a bit of a hidden mechanic because one thing that you start to notice about Scarlet and Violet is that there are gas stations in this game. Now, why exactly would there be gas stations when we typically just have our regular Poke Centers? Well, maybe that's because you can actually drive around in this game. It is an open world game, so travel is very important. And well, if you look at the legendary Pokemon, they basically look like they have a secondary function. They look very similar to a motorcycle with wheels, handlebars, and all that stuff. So don't be surprised if you can actually ride these legendary Pokemon around. But yeah, I really like what I saw today with Scarlet and Violet. You know, graphically, they're not necessarily outstanding looking games visually, though I do expect some of that to be cleaned up before its official release. We saw something very similar happen with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl last year, then with Legends Arceus as well, so I imagine that it will be improved before its release, even if not necessarily dramatically. If anything, I think it's going to look a lot better in person, much like Legends Arceus. Nonetheless, though, go ahead and mark your calendars for November 18th. That Nintendo Switch holiday is suddenly looking very good. Now, one last thing that we're going to talk about today is the possibility of Final Fantasy VII Remake coming over to Xbox. This really has been an ongoing question since it was first revealed as a timed exclusive. Now, that's not just a rumor or conjecture or anything like that. That is an absolute fact, to the point that the original box art for Final Fantasy VII Remake had a date as to when the timed exclusivity would end on PlayStation. The thing, however, was that Final Fantasy VII Intergrade released the very next year, and suddenly reports were going around that PlayStation might have extended their timed exclusive contract. However, we don't really know anything beyond that or when the deal ends. We'll actually talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment, but something very interesting seems to be happening right now. And the timing of all of this could be very telling on a potential announcement maybe as early as this month. So what's happening here is that an eagle-eyed fan over on Resetera by the username of 0DS spotted that Final Fantasy VII Remake is no longer being listed in the PlayStation console exclusive section in the store. It apparently was listed there just a few weeks ago, so why the sudden change here? And that brings me back to the timing of all this, because there's a few very important dates to keep an eye on. The first of which is Final Fantasy VII Intergrade itself. This game did release almost exactly 1 year ago on June 10th of 2021. Now, hypothetically, if PlayStation really did extend their timed exclusivity with the Intergrade release, and if it was for 1 year like their original contract was in the first place, that would mean that on June 10th of this year, Square Enix would be free to release it wherever they see fit. Now, that's the thing, because what else is happening this month in June? Of course, you have the Summer Game Fest, which has various showcases, including the Xbox Bethesda showcase on June 12th, coincidentally just 2 days after the 1 year anniversary of Intergrade. So, with that in mind, could it be possible that Square Enix is about ready to make an announcement of an Xbox port, which would align, again, with why Sony suddenly took it off of their console exclusive section of their store? Of course, though, do keep in mind that all of this really is just speculation, and we really don't know what type of contract Sony and Square Enix has. For all we know, they might have locked it down for multiple years or even indefinitely, but considering their original contract of just 1 year, I could see them doing that once again with Intergrade. This is a big release after all, and probably very costly to keep it off of other platforms for a prolonged amount of time. I mean, Final Fantasy is a massive franchise, and while it might not necessarily be as popular on Xbox as it is on PlayStation, it's still a big franchise, and I do imagine that Square Enix would like to bring it over to Xbox at some point. Again, this is a big release after all, but I do wonder though, if hypothetically, Square Enix does announce Final Fantasy Remake for Xbox, I wonder if Xbox would try to get this as an Xbox Game Pass game. As we talked about yesterday, they do seem to be teasing big news for Game Pass this June, and technically, this is a game that could possibly release as early as this month. And I mean, Xbox fans have already waited for 2 long years for this game. It would be nice to see some of that patience be rewarded with a Game Pass release. That would be a very welcome addition, but that's really just me spitballing. I'm not saying that it'll actually happen or anything like that. But yeah, there you have it. Nothing's necessarily confirmed yet, but with the timing of all of this, it does seem like one big coincidence. Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though, and this really has been an intense debate online for a long time now, and that is whether or not you think Indiana Jones will be an Xbox exclusive. After all, this is a Bethesda studio-developed game. It is developed by Machine Games, which is now owned by Xbox. Though, and this right here is the problem, this game was licensed by Disney before that Bethesda acquisition was complete. So, yeah. This really has been an ongoing question, and that's why I thought I'd go and ask you all on what you all thought. And as you can see here, most of you, being 56%, are expecting this to be an Xbox exclusive, while 34% of you all believe that no, it won't be. So, Most of you all do believe that Xbox will lock this game down, though still a big portion of you all don't think that it will happen. And I do think that the split opinion on this specific game does actually have some merit. This isn't really a Starfield situation where Xbox and Bethesda actually owns the IP. Indiana Jones, instead, this is a licensed game owned by Disney. In their opinion, that's going to matter here. But that is one thing that we have kind of seen here in recent years. Disney, they don't necessarily seem to be afraid of making their games exclusive to one platform, whether that be something like Spider-Man and Wolverine. Those are PlayStation exclusives being developed by Insomniac Games. Or in another situation, you have Pirates of the Caribbean with the Sea of Thieves expansion. That's exclusive to Xbox. So, I mean, based off of that, I don't think that you can necessarily rule anything out by this point. I'll just kind of say for myself, I'm going to kind of take a wait-and-see approach here. Here recently, Nick Baker, which has a pretty good track record of leaking information, he did say that he had heard that Indiana Jones will be an Xbox exclusive. Though Jez Corden, he had heard last year that it wouldn't be. Though, and this is important, he did note that that is old information and that things may have changed since then. So, I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see on this one, hopefully sooner rather than later. Again, let's just go and keep our eyes on the Xbox Bethesda showcase. Hopefully we get an update there. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.